Whether it's rock and roll or old soul, it don't matter. Disco, calypso.
Stephanie Wilson Show. Today you are joining us for our first episode. Thank you so much for coming out. Today we have educator extraordinaire Natalie Verbeem. Welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thanks for having me, Steph.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you got involved in the educational field.
Absolutely. It wasn't, honestly, I can't say that it was something that I always dreamed of doing. I had some time in my life when I wasn't sure, but I somehow always found myself with jobs with kids, daycare, summer camp, babysitting. I worked as a nanny, different things like that. And it was a teacher that mentored me in high school that actually geared my path towards drama and education. I went to school. I was fortunate enough to love every single minute of my post-secondary education, and it led me to teaching, and I feel like I've found my niche in life. So
Well, you're certainly good at it. What excites you about teaching?
So many things, but for me, the excitement in the job comes from building relationships with my students and being able to foster their learning in a positive way. Curriculum obviously is a huge part of our job, but for me, it's the rapport with my students. It's the impact that's going to last long beyond the lessons in the classroom. So
Right. It must be really rewarding for you. What kind of things is teaching done for you? How is it rewarding?
I think that first and foremost, the people that I've been able to meet and encounter in my life, as far as it being colleagues, mentors, administration, friends that I've made out of it, and some of like amazing kids that I've met, has been the first and foremost biggest benefit of teaching for me. And then it constantly challenges me, expands my mind, forces me to think outside the box and evaluate my own biases and just become a better person. Flat out.
You mentioned it's challenging for you. What kind of things are challenging for you in the educational field?
I mean, if I could give like a readily available example, it's this year I'm teaching a split grade with 29 students. Many students IEP'd, which means individual education plan, so we have specific needs that they're looking to meet outside of the general curriculum that's being delivered in the classroom. And you're stretching yourself into a lot of different areas, or as we used to say in drama and education, you're wearing a lot of different hats, and that can be stressful, and that can be hard to make it feel like you're giving 100% in all areas. So that can be a big challenge sometimes.
Okay, so what you learned in school, are you applying most of it, or do you put your own spin on it, or do you have professional development where you're channeling in on various educational resources to
All of
meet
the
your
above.
needs?
All of the above. I think that any person that works in education will tell you that they might be a teacher, administrator, whatever their position is, but they're always a forever student. So I definitely take practices from my university degree. I went to school for a program about using the arts to liven up all curriculum topics across your education to get kids to hook in, buy in, want to learn. And we also believe that because the dramatic arts reflects life, that bringing it into our education allows the children to connect what they're learning to life and learn how to feel comfortable applying it in a safe setting such as a classroom. So a lot of that goes into my teaching practice. A lot of things that I've seen over the years working with some awesome educators, some in the building I'm in right now that I learned from, ongoing PD. I have an awesome administrator this year who's already taught me so much, and we're halfway through the school year, so it's ever evolving.
Okay, all right. So do you think the educational system as a whole is working for our students?
Yes and no. I think it's ever evolving. It definitely works for some students, and then there are others that it's not working for because maybe they have a particular need that's not being met, or they're not being served in a way that is needing to be served in their life. And that might be the system as a whole, the education system, or it might be the social system, right? Some kids come to school hungry and they're not getting their needs met there, and therefore the school system, how we have it set up, can't work for them because they're worried about their grumbling belly over learning. Or but in other ways, I feel like we've come a long way in education, and that compared to my own educational experience and how one-way thinking it was, it's really expanded. We're really trying to cater to all learners. We're trying to bring learning into the 21st century, and I think those are great benefits that are benefiting our students. People come to Canada for education because it's up and coming. It's now. It's definitely more pros than cons, in my opinion.
Okay. Do you think it's as educators, it's our responsibility to handle the things such as, feeding them and handling, teaching them socially? They do have parents for
Right.
the most part.
Absolutely. I think a lot of that can depend on where your school is and knowing the demographic of the area and being realistic about that. On paper, is it our responsibility? No. Morally, and it takes a village. It takes a village to raise kids, and sometimes you even though it isn't on paper your responsibility, it is morally yours to pick up the slack where someone else isn't. So that's how I feel like people who get into education treat their students, their kids. That's those 29 kids in my class this year are my kids. They are my responsibility in my mind more than my job description would say. Right?
How do you handle, how do you get those challenging students to buy into, you did mention drama.
Yeah.
What other ways do you get the students to buy into what they're trying to, accomplish?
So for me, I think that it's always been a mutual respect is a big thing in my room, and I understand that respect is earned, not just given, and that goes both ways. I don't walk in my classroom on the first day of school and expect my kids to have this ultimate respect for me. They don't know me, and we're going to get to know each other, and we're going to build a trust, and I think that helps kids buy in with me because we end up building a rapport and a relationship, and it becomes that they want to succeed to make me proud and in turn have me feel proud of them. And you know what I mean? So that is a big thing for me. And then I like to get down on their level. I don't take myself too seriously. I participate with the kids. I go into gym and I will play with the kids. I will get down and dirty in an experiment. I'm calling them on and modeling the behavior I want by doing it and not just saying, okay, here's what we're going to do, now do it. And I think that's a big way of getting those kids to kind of buy into what you're trying to get them to do as well.
Wow, your classroom must be amazing. I've been in there a few times, and the kids are always have a smile on their face. They're always enjoying and participating. That's great. We're going to take a moment to take a break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the Stephanie Wilson Show. Natalie, we have a few more questions for you. What do you think is needed so that our students are more successful in their education?
More support. I think that we all read about the increase in learning difficulties with students, increases in mental health issues and things like that in our society. And then, unfortunately we have governments that want to make cuts and take things away from students, and I think the kids need more support. They need more adults that can kind of tend to their needs and work with them, and I think we'd see a big difference.
Well, that's going to cost money. I don't know if that government will fly with that, but
No, I don't think so.
They're constantly cutting all the
Yeah.
time, so we have to find some creative ways to make that happen, I think. What ways do you motivate your students to embrace learning and ownership? Because a lot of times it's always onus is always on the teacher, right? So how do you get students to stop with the apathy, embrace learning, and just take ownership of their own education?
One of the ways that I do that is by being real with them. I let them, we have frank conversations in my classroom where my kids will engage in discussion, and we talk about being responsible for yourself, advocating for yourself, doing things for yourself. And I will say to them sometimes if they're not grading, I'm like, hey, guys, I passed grade 4. This is for you. You have to want it and go after yourself. And I try to, instill that in them because, like you said, it falls all on the teacher. That's a new age thinking thing, in my opinion, because when we were kids, and I'm sure you can relate, the onus was on us. If I messed up on a test at school, it was me getting in trouble at home, not my teacher, right? And none of this, oh, who's to blame? Well, my parents knew it was me. I didn't study.
And we also had consequences in place
Well,
too,
and that's
in
the
the
thing.
school and outside of school.
So, and that you led right into it for me. The next thing is, if they're not taking that ownership, if they're not taking that responsibility, there's going to be consequences, and obviously age appropriate consequences for the action, right? You might be talking about detention. You know, nobody likes missing out on recess to get caught up on work they could have done before, things like that, right? So,
Except for the winter. Kids
No.
like to stay in the winter.
it is true.
Yeah.
Maybe reverse, make them go out. No.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Walk with Wilson. Yeah.
They have to be
Okay.
on duty.
What we'll do right now is we're having fun right here, and I want to find out what is the most outlandish thing you've done to reach a student, and how did they embrace it? How did they run with it?
All right, so I'm going to say the most outlandish thing I've done to reach students. It was something I did for my whole class. It was a technique we had learned about in early university, and then it never really got brought up a lot again. And I was like, you know, I'm really going to try this out and see how it goes. So I was teaching a grade 5-6 class. I had come up with the idea of them doing a social studies project about early societies and artifacts of early societies, and I was going to create a museum day, and they had to build these artifacts and whatever. But to introduce this assignment, I showed up after nutrition break into my classroom in full-on costume, like Indiana Jones. Fake mustache.
That was it? Yeah.
Yeah, full-on costume, and I continued with an accent for a 100-minute block, introducing this assignment, getting them pumped up that I was hiring them for this job, and doing all this, and
Can you do the accent now?
no way. No way. I don't even remember what it was. This is going back early in my career. But the kids' response to it was amazing. They all played along. They all thought it was awesome. My name was Professor A.N. Chint. Get it?
Ancient.
See what I did there? Yeah.
A little corny.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
You're age appropriate, I'm
Yeah,
assuming.
absolutely.
And then what happened? They just
The
ran
assignment
with
was
it?
amazing, yeah. So Professor A and Chint checked in about 2 more times throughout their work on their artifacts, and then on the presentation day, we set up like a big mock museum in the classroom, and for all of their presentations, A and Chint was the evaluator. So it was, they were highly motivated by it. They had fun with it. They liked it. They played along for the duration of the entire assignment. It was pretty good. It was a lot of commitment, though.
That's cool. And did they embrace history and social studies a little bit more in the future?
Yeah. I can't say in the future. I'll be honest. I don't know, because I ended up having to move schools at the end of that school year. But they were definitely buying in for the unit, when social studies can be kind of a difficult topic to get kids to really be excited about.
And did the results manifest as far as their grades? where
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
assessed
There
it?
was some of the kids who are typically not overly involved in their collaborative work and things like that were involved, wanted to be part of it. Even if maybe their academic score wasn't a huge improvement by the end, what was improved was their social skills, their commitment and work ethic towards the activity and things like that. So I call that a win too.
Okay, did anybody thank you? Because the teachers put a lot of effort into things, and actually the school that we work at, there's a lot of thank yous. Sometimes just a little wink and a nod or just a smile is good enough, but do they thank you? Are they appreciative of the effort that you put forth?
I think
for your...
the most appreciation I found from that particular circumstance was from the parents. I got a lot of thank yous from parents, and I find that at this school that we're currently at as well, that the parents really take note of the extra above and beyond you do to get your students involved in your classroom and to enjoy coming to learn every day.
Now we're going to kind of get into the humdrum, not so fun part.
Bring it.
Tell me about a time where you felt that you failed a student, and or that the system failed them, and you know, how did you try your best to do? You know, we can't save everybody,
Right.
But what was your effort towards you know, their progress, and what did you know, as you reflect, what could you have done to change to help the student?
Yeah. Last year, I worked at a high school for students with mental health issues. And there was one student in particular whom the potential I saw in that student, and truly the cognitive academic ability was boundless. So it became my mission to see her graduate at the end of the year, to get the credits that she needed to get in order to finish the year and be successful and try to move on in a post-secondary education and not have that mental health issue be ruling her life. That looked like me doing the extra tutoring on the side to help her get her credits, and you know, seeing that she was able to get to her social worker whenever needed, and just being that extra supportive adult caring in her life when she was getting tossed from foster home to foster home and whatnot.